the IPA, hashtag She's IPA and Policing TV. This is a collaboration to highlight women in policing and police women in International Police Association. We are today speaking with Hannah Wheeler from the Metropolitan Police in London, who is the Chief Superintendent and within career management. We are talking about women in policing, women in IPA, and women in leadership. And I know that you got a phrase that you can call inspiring leadership. So what do you think when you use that word, when you speak with other journalists and papers and colleagues? What is inspiring leadership?
Inspiring leadership is seeing people that you can aspire to be like, that have qualities and have attained kind of roles that you think, wow, that is achievable for me. But they're also giving back and inspiring with it. So rather than not being supportive once they've reached a certain point, it's enabling others to see that it's possible, but also arranging events and going to speak to people and talking about your journey and some of the barriers maybe, or the hurdles, and explaining how it was possible, and helping people to plan their careers and explain to them how it can be possible as well. Because sometimes people just see you and they think, oh, they've got there, they must have done it this way, and they might not know anything about your journey or some of the things that you faced, that might have made it, made them think, oh, that's more achievable for me, or I can do that, or that's a good pathway to take. But yes, inspiring leaders are people that instill trust and respect. Men and women. I've had some brilliant male and female leaders, but people that are supportive and really encourage. You think, yes, that's inspiring confidence in me.
Yes, lovely. Well, you've been recognized for your inspiring leadership, because I know that during the pandemic you were the national PPE lead, the personal protection equipment lead, and you were head of the Operation Tara, from what I can understand. And the Queen, the late Queen, recognized you and handed over the police medal to you in 2021. Can you share with us a little bit about this operational Tara and what you did during the pandemic that was so important when it comes to the health and security of police officers?
No, certainly. So when the pandemic actually hit, I was on secondment to the Inspectorate of Constabularies and Fire and Rescue Services, which is our kind of national inspection team. So I was traveling around the country inspecting forces on mental health, actually. But then we had to obviously close down all that inspection work when the pandemic hit. And the National Police Coordination Centre, which is a very, very small group of people, kind of reached out and said, is there anyone that can come and help us? Anyone with a network of contacts nationally that would really be of use during the pandemic? We need someone just for sort of 3 months to try and to help us. So I volunteered to go. And I turned up on the first day, and they said, oh, great, you're here. Please, can you sort out PPE for national policing and don't catch COVID? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was basically my task. So it was the personal protective equipment. I initially scoped out whether there was any PPE available from the government. There wasn't. There wasn't even sufficient for the National Health Service either. So I said to my boss, we're going to have to do this ourselves. So he said, fine, do what you need to do. So I set up a very, very small remote team. And one of the pluses to come out of COVID was that you could work remotely. So I had people that I wouldn't normally have met from around the country, but I had 5 people on my team. They were police staff, very, very skilled at procurement, contract management, And we used our trusted suppliers into policing to try and get sufficient quantities of PPE. We couldn't do that initially through our suppliers, so we had to resort to, well, initially ringing around dental warehouses that had closed down to see what PPE they had, what we could buy, what we could distribute. And we realized that we had to get, we had to get organized very, very quickly. So identified through one of the police forces that there was an old aircraft hangar that we could use that was situated in the middle of the country, so it was good for to be near Heathrow, but also the main sort of travel routes, travel and transport. I linked up with the Army, the Royal Military Logistic Corps, and they came and helped us set up a big hub where we would order huge quantities of PPE in, and a very, very small team of officers would check that PPE in, unpack it, and then repack it to send out to forces. So it sounds quite simple, but it was quite complicated negotiating all the finance for that, because there was no money. So I had to ask forces to borrow rather large quantities of money. We identified the items of PPE that were needed. We then had to write the guidance, and it was really, really difficult. But we had our main focus was, our mission was to save lives, because we didn't know what this pandemic was going to bring. And I knew that police officers were going to have to go face to face with whatever this virus was, and they needed proper protection. So we needed to properly support them, properly give them guidance so that they could understand how to use that within their police powers. So I think we bought just short of 3 tons of PPE, and there were various different issues. Some PPE we bought then wasn't appropriate, so we had to swap that out for another type. We would get PPE flown in from the Far East, and then the planes would get diverted to other countries because other countries needed PPE. We had our overseas territories as well to supply, so Cyprus, and British Virgin Islands and places, they didn't have PPE either. So yeah, policing was very reliant just on this small group of people. But we managed to make sure that everyone had PPE, that they were safe and protected. And then we moved on to vaccinations and testing as well, to make sure that we could keep sufficient numbers of police officers out and about, but also allay their fears, because they were coming to work and going back to their families, and they were terrified that they were going to infect their families as well. So yeah.
It was a time we didn't know anything in the beginning. When you started this operation, most of us had no information about what it actually was. We knew that people went very sick. And when we're talking about PPE, personal protection equipment, I assume we talk about face masks and gloves. Was it anything else that was included into what you distributed?
Yeah, so we had face masks. We had 3 different types of face masks. We had the surgical masks plus the higher level masks for certain areas. We had the gloves. We had all-in-one suits as well for body recovery, which police officers had to do a lot of. We had hand sanitizer, so that officers could constantly be making sure that they were clean and safe. We had goggles, because of the airborne nature of the virus, and certainly in custody suites, those closed environments where we took prisoners, that the ventilation is poor, we had to make sure they were super protected. I mean, it was terribly uncomfortable for them, but we wanted to make sure that they were as safe as they could possibly be. And we had things like overshoes, other cleaning products as well. But yeah, it was a few items.
Yeah. I read in one newspaper article from UK that the police had about 80 million PPE items that was sent around the country, and also, as you said, overseas to protect police officers in other areas where you would be responsible. And it must have been a successful work, because having the Queen's Police Medal in 2021, it must have been a very large recognition for you and also for your team. How did you feel about when you was informed about that you would receive the Queen's Police Medal?
I was completely shocked. I thought it was yeah. I didn't believe it. I didn't know that my boss at the National Police Coordination Centre had even nominated me. So I had this phone call out of the blue, and I didn't believe it. And then I was just hugely honoured. But it was a team effort. You know, my team were fantastic, and I made sure that they got, you know, suitably recognised as well, with commendations. I mean, it was a fantastic effort, but it was to say what was initially a 3-month job turned into 2 years, because as we know, we had a lockdown, and then we came out, and then we went back
Yes.
into lockdown, and as our knowledge of the virus grew, we could shape our guidance and also offer different types of protective equipment for different scenarios and things. And we also have developed a strategy now for future pandemics. We have access to our own pandemic stockpile, because there was nothing for us previously. So there are lots of things that we've learned that have
Yes.
future-proofed us for in the hopefully rare event that this happens again.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the medal, and
Thank you.
congratulations to your team. But Hannah, today you're doing something totally different. Can you tell us what before we close the interview, what you're working with today, and how you ended up to do that? Because that is also something that is interesting, I think, for our audience.
So when I finished my pandemic job, I came back to the Met policing. I was on operational command in West London, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, loved it. I went for promotion again and was promoted to Chief Superintendent. And then I landed my dream job in the Met, which is career management, excuse me, career management and talent development. So it's supporting and developing officers and staff, excuse me, to achieve whatever they want. So I run a team of chief inspectors and detective chief inspectors that are career development leads, and it's a specialist post within HR. So they support and develop women, Black, Asian, and multiple ethnic heritage officers and staff. So we are wanting to support people to progress through policing. We don't have enough women or underrepresented groups at those senior levels. And we've realised that, you know, we do need to put extra support and development and help in signposting, building confidence, you know, networking. So there are a couple of courses that I run. There's one called Inspiring Leadership, which is for Black constables, and one called Lead On, which is for sergeants and inspectors and police staff equivalents. And that's about understanding yourself, your strengths, your qualities, helping you to learn how to coach, problem solve, build networks. So really positive things that can enable you to progress through the service or go to a sort of specialist or lateral move. I also run the fast track schemes, so the PC to inspector and inspector to superintendent, where we identify talented officers that can go to a national assessment centre that's run by the College of Policing. And again, the last cohort of PC to inspector we had was 50% female, which is a fantastic result. We had 18 people through, and previously we've had sort of 5 or 6. So we're really kind of nurturing our talent and identifying it and having those talent conversations. I've also well, with my team, we have introduced a performance development framework. So it's an online way of having those ongoing career conversations with your line manager. So it's replaces the annual appraisal, which was kind of always a look back, whereas we want career development to be forward looking. So you're planning your development throughout the year. So we have career development plans, objectives and goals, and you have regular check-ins with your line manager, and you identify with your line manager's help what courses you might need or what development you might need, and then that is planned in for you throughout the year. So it's a very kind of holistic, ongoing process as to how you are developing and being supported. Promotions always also comes within my portfolio. So we run insight sessions for promotion to kind of demystify it, simplify the processes, make people, encourage people to join and take promotion, support them to do so. So we run workshops again around building confidence, dealing with imposter phenomenon, encouraging people to apply for things when previously they might have sat back or thought, I'm not sure if that's for me. And linking people up to mentors and coaches. So my team do lots of coaching and lots of mentoring. And we've just set up a reverse mentoring scheme in the Met where senior officers are mentored by younger officers, because it's always good to remind senior officers of what's happening on the front line and provide that challenge, because the world is very different on the front line from when some of us older officers joined. So it's always good to have that kind of reality check. We've got, say, various mentoring schemes, and we've got a fantastic network of women as well. So my job is just all things support and development, which is fantastic. So really, really, I love it.
And this is a work that is done for the Metropolitan Police,
Yeah.
and to make the audience aware of the size. You mentioned the figure earlier, how many you are in the Metropolitan Police.
Yeah, so there's 32,000 of us. So that's pretty much 25% of all the UK national policing.
Yes.
So we're the biggest force. So just doing anything in our sort of in the Metropolitan Police has to be done at scale and volume. So when we have promotion processes, like our recent sergeant promotion process, we had about 900 candidates. Whereas some of the smaller forces will put through maybe 6 or 7 officers. We're doing it at huge scale. So it's making sure that we have really good representation at every rank, and that diversity as well, and people feel supported and encouraged and included to apply.
Absolutely. Well, you are really delivering equal opportunities, and when it comes to leadership, that you try to identify people from all kind of areas of policing, and I think that is absolutely fantastic when we now start to look at Metropolitan Police and the way you start to work with your police officers. So Hannah, I'm very happy that you could take the time today, and I would like to say a few words as a closure, that when women themselves are inspired to be included, there's a sense of belonging and empowerment. And to listen to you today with your inspiring leadership way of giving all kind of information to us, I think you are a very good contributor when it comes to an inclusive world for both women and men.
Thank you.
Hannah, thank you for you giving this interview to the hashtag She's IPA and to Policing TV. And dear watchers, we are happy that you joined us today and listened to the hashtag She's IPA interview with Hannah Wheeler. We have met her, and she's working for the Metropolitan Police in London, UK, and she will be back somewhere along the line in this project to increase women in IPA and also to empower women in policing. We welcome you to the hashtag She's IPA series of women empowerment. The interviews are one part of the hashtag She's IPA, And we also do educational seminars, webinars that will be provided through our educational center, the International Education Center IBZ Gimborn in Germany. So if you would like to look at those seminars or webinars, I would advise you to use the website, the www.ibz-gimborn, JIMBORN.de for Germany. So if you would like to look at other interviews that is done already before at Policing TV, it will be within the IPA Insights place, and you visit the website www.policinginsights.com. So thank you for today, and welcome back to our hashtag She's IPA series and webinars in the future.
Thank you.
Lovely. This is absolutely super. I'm just